morning, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Global Business Insights podcast. I'm joined once again with my partner in crime, Charlotte de Brabant. This episode is episode 4 of the Hyper Leadership Series 8. We're looking into the topic of hyper leadership further in this episode. We're going to be touching on the topic of cognitive overload and looking at executive resilience. Quite a deep subject and something I think we've all experienced in senior leadership roles. So I'm going to jump straight in. Charlotte, question 1 for you. Cognitive overload seems almost universal among senior leaders today. Certainly something I've experienced. How serious is this issue really?
Hi, Max. So once again, it's a great pleasure to be here. And wow, what a impactful topic to get this episode started. So I would say it's far from serious than most organizations are willing to acknowledge. And this whole theme of cognitive overload, it's isn't just about being busy. It's about leaders carrying more complexity than the human brain is designed to process continuously. So when leaders operate in a constant state of overload, decision quality degrades, emotional regulation weakens, and empathy declines. So what worries me most is that this state becomes normalized and even rewarded in this society. So from the hyper leadership perspective, cognitive overload is a systemic risk. It leads to reactive leadership, short-term determinism, and an increased reliance on control mechanisms. So over time, this erodes trust and resilience across the entire organization. And it causes burnout at the top. So I would say it's something not to ignore. It's something to be consciously alert about.
Okay, yeah, I think it's a really important topic because, again, as I said at the start, this is something certainly I've experienced before, and you can literally feel it yourself when you're in these sort of leadership roles. If you're working with leaders, you can literally see them going through it on a daily basis. Everyone starts their day with, full mental, hopefully, capacity and full energy. The more decisions leaders make, the more situations that you're thrown into, the more your cognitive capacity gets overloaded throughout the day. So you can literally see leaders getting that emotional regulation getting weaker throughout the day. You can see decision-making quality degrading throughout the day, and it's something we all need to be really mindful of. So second question for you, Charlotte. What are the main drivers of cognitive overload at executive level that you're seeing?
So like you, I've also seen it in firsthand. I've worked in 5 different industries across 3 continents in a variety of different levels, and there are, in my opinion, maybe 3 primary drivers. So first, the sheer volume of information that leaders are exposed to, all these data dashboards, this email flood that's happening, messages, meetings with very little filtration. Second is the role of ambiguity. Leaders are often involved in decisions they shouldn't be involved in, simply because governance hasn't evolved. And thirdly, the constant accessibility. We have digital tools. They have erased natural boundaries, creating an expectation of perpetual availability. So what's important is to understand that this overload isn't a personal failure. It's a design failure. And hyper leadership, it addresses the system, not just individual coping mechanisms.
So this is the bit I've been waiting for. I mean, yes, we're talking about cognitive overload. Yes, we're talking about the resilience and how leaders can bolster their own kind of immune system to not suffer from this. how the series is talking about hyper leadership. So how does hyper leadership actually approach this problem? What does it do to solve this?
Well, hyper leadership, as written also in the book, it treats attention as a strategic asset. So what leaders pay attention to are signals, what really matter. Instead of asking, how can I do more? Hyper leaders, they would then ask, what should I stop doing? How can I delegate or automate? So this means intentionally designing leadership roles, decision flows, and information architecture. And Max, leaders, they must protect their cognitive space for thinking, reflection, and sense making. So without that space, leaders, they become purely operational, and that's really incredibly dangerous in this complex environment.
Okay, so all of that being said then, let's get practical. What sort of changes can leaders actually make to reduce some of this overload?
Very good question. So I think the most impactful changes are often structural rather than personal. Clarifying decision rights dramatically reduces unnecessary involvement. Redesigning the meetings, maybe having fewer, shorter, with clearer purpose, can also free up enormous cognitive capacity. And leaders should also establish clear, no interruption. So this pure thinking time, I think this is something that has really helped me a lot. And even maybe put that thinking time in your calendar, so you are the owner of your calendar. That's always what I like to say. But on a personal level, leaders need to become ruthless about prioritization. If everything is important, nothing is. So hyper leaders, they actively curate their attention instead of reacting to whoever is loudest or most urgent.
Okay, so you talked there about resilience and endurance. They're two different things, really. How do you distinguish between those two kind of elements to this? Can you explain a bit further on that?
So in my humble opinion, endurance is about pushing through stress. And resilience is about redesigning systems so stress doesn't even accumulate unnecessarily. So endurance, it eventually fails. Resilience adapts. And many leadership cultures that I've seen still glorify endurance, long hours, constant availability. But hyper leadership challenges that narrative. Resilient leaders, they create conditions where recovery, learning, recalibration are built into the system. And that's how sustainable performance is achieved. And I truly believe in that.
Okay, so more on an organizational level then, why is managing that cognitive load an actual leadership responsibility, not just a personal one? It sounds like organizations should actually be aware of the cognitive load they're putting their leaders under, because that could actually affect the overall productivity of the business. So it's not just personal. Again, can you explain a little bit more on that part, please?
Absolutely. So I think it's to do with this whole the leader's model behavior. If a leader is overloaded, reactive, and constantly firefighting, the organization, it mirrors that state. And conversely, when leaders demonstrate focus and reflection and thoughtful decision making, it cascades downwards. And hyper leadership, it recognizes that how leaders think is just as important as what they decide.
Excellent. Okay, I think that's really answered the questions around how that mental overload really can challenge the decision-making power and quality of executives and how they can be resilient to that. Been a great episode once again. Thank you, Charlotte, and I will see you on the next episode.
Absolutely, and thank you to our listeners. I hope this has inspired you all to become better hyper leaders.